Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking episode 2 of Season 5 of Arrow, The Recruits. So here we get our first sort of real look at what's shaping up to be the new Team Arrow. And of course, Oliver pretty much screws up a whole bunch of stuff as well. We also formally get introduced to Ragman. We get a little bit more about what's going on in Diggle. There's a lot of stuff happening in this episode. So let's get right into things. Let's get the Diggle stuff right out of the way. And his plot is, of course, probably setting things up so that he's going to be returning to Star City and Oliver. Here Diggle has chosen to go back to the military life. That's what he's known, and he really does put a lot of stock in that. Him helping the young soldier. There he's in a place where he feels like he can really make a genuine difference. And of course, this all goes nightmarishly wrong. He gets betrayed by his commanding officer and basically set up for treason. And it just kind of shows to him that you have to be careful about what you put your trust in. Diggle's trust has been hurt and betrayed quite a bit. His own brother turned out to not be the person that he thought he was. Here he's been betrayed by his commanding officer and his fellow soldiers. And that's obviously a pretty bad place to be. And let me make no mistake, Oliver has done his fair share of mistreating Diggle's trust as well. So it's just kind of one of those cases of where do you go? What do you put your faith in? And how all that's going to pan out for Dig, we're going to have to wait and see. I was a little bit bothered by some of the speech that he gave to the soldier about how it's like, look, just follow your orders. There's a beauty and simplicity to all of that. And, Dig is not wrong, but this sort of don't question things aspect is something of the military mindset that's always never really quite, has always rubbed me the wrong way. I understand why it's there. But the idea of just not questioning things just kind of just goes against my nature, I suppose. Again, I understand why in the military things do have to sort of be that way, but I don't know, just not questioning things is, to me, makes it too easy to just sort of go along with things that are maybe not right. And, well, anyway, we're just going to leave it at that. So moving back to what's going on with Star City. I really like what's going on here with Thea and Quentin. Quentin shows up at the charity thing. He's obviously had more than a few. And Thea quickly susses out that, yeah, he's been drinking again. And Oliver confirms this. And Thea responds to all this by offering Quentin his position as deputy mayor. And she lays out this really good reason. It's like, look, you're this extremely experienced police officer. You've been involved in all this crazy stuff with my superhero brother. And you've come through. And, she has good reason to believe in Quentin despite his recent mistakes with alcohol. And this does kind of give Quentin something he needs, a reason not to drink, a purpose, something meaningful. And I'm also interested to see sort of where this personal dynamic between him and Thea goes. His Laurel is dead, Sarah's God only knows where. And, I can kind of see that maybe sort of bonding in a sort of father-daughter way. Thea's somebody who wants to get away from that superhero life that killed Laurel. And Quentin, he's somebody who definitely was a good father. Not a father without his flaws, but someone who loved his two daughters dearly. So I could see them possibly bonding in that way. Now, it's interesting here that we're talking about family. Oliver is making some really profound mistakes when he tries to forming the new Team Arrow. His first mistake is to try and basically train them the way that the Bratva trained him. But the thing is, though, and I totally said, it's all about you have no name, you have no past, you're nothing. I guess Oliver's quoting or whatever. You're basically trying to turn people into these machines. And it's really pointed out to Oliver, it's like, look, what made all those people do those things for you is because they trusted you. And this is not the way that you build trust with people. And it's when ultimately Oliver takes a risk and approaches the team as a human being rather than this sort of shadowy guy hanging out in what I'm guessing is probably the old Hive base, that they really do seem to be willing to actually trust him. And, this is kind of one of the reasons why that sort of very brutal and uncaring version of, like, Batman has never appealed to me. It's understandable why you have to do these sort of things. I mean, Laurel, for example, not having the level of training that Oliver had, is probably part of the reason why she got killed. Laurel was nobody to mess with, certainly, but she wasn't up there with Slade even without his powers. Or even Sarah. She was good. There are a lot of people out there, including Damien Dark, who are better. And you know that has to be in the back of Oliver's mind at all times. And he even says, if you don't understand just how dangerous this is, go down there and look at that statue of Laurel. She's better than any of you guys, and she ended up dead anyway. Nothing really particular to say about Evelyn or Renee this episode, although it is kind of funny to see how Renee really hates that wild dog name. It's like, dude, if you hate it that much, wear a different shirt. I really do hope that there is some sort of story behind that particular shirt, too. Also, it's a little funny that he's so questioning of Oliver, despite the fact that Oliver basically saved him from getting splattered on the pavement after he fell off the roof of a building. It's like, dude, you definitely have a long way to go. So maybe a little less lip, okay? Let's see. What else do we have to talk about? Now, Ragman is also introduced in this episode, and he's not a character that I really know super well. I do remember one time I was reading about him in like some stuff, and it was basically saying he was kind of presented as as sort of the counterpart to the Spectre. The Spectre was Jim Corrigan, who's now, thanks to Constantine being retconned into the Arrowverse, part of this universe, is like an embodiment of God's wrath. Ragman was sort of meant to be an instrument of redemption. Like, yes, he would absorb these people's souls, but if they were part of the Ragman outfit for a while, they could use their skills and knowledge and abilities to ultimately perhaps earn themselves redemption. He was even described as a redemption engine. But again, not a character I know super well. Here, though, they're sort of harkening back to what happened with Haven Rock being destroyed by Damien Dark, and this has had, a world almost being destroyed in nuclear fire, and an American city being flattened with Ragman turning out to be the sole survivor, which is an interesting touch. I'm really interested to see where they're going with this. It's even pointed out that this is probably sort of either a metahuman thing or a mystical thing. From what we're told in this episode, it's probably some sort of a mystical thing, which does fit into the comics. And I definitely did like that scene between Oliver and Ragman sort of bonding over their fathers, and how this isn't what our fathers would really want. They would want us to they would want us to do these sort of things to make the world a better place the right way. Which, considering how Oliver has kind of regressed to killing people, at least last episode, that kind of says something as to whether or not this might be a mark of turning point, Oliver stepping away from that again. But I do want to see more of Ragman, a little bit more as to what's going on with him. Let's see, what else? Nothing particularly to say about what's going on with Church this episode, or Prometheus. I do share the criticism that's been floating around with a lot of people that Ragman and Prometheus look way too much alike that it's kind of hard to tell them apart. Hopefully they'll adjust that as the season goes along. We'll have to wait and see. But here, this is the first time we do get to see that he calls himself Prometheus. And of course, Prometheus and Green Arrow do have some rather serious history in comics, but how much of that is going to play out, that's going to remain to be seen. And I think that covers everything that I really had to say about this episode. I do like that Oliver. Oh yeah, actually, I did like that. Once again, it was Felicity who really kind of had to go in and point out to Oliver, this is why you drove them away, and this is how you have to sort of do to get these guys back. You have to approach them as a human being. They have to trust you. Renee even says, I'd follow someone I trusted into hell. And again, showing who he was as a human being. That's what ultimately kind of wins these guys over. And even after Curtis basically tells Oliver to screw himself, when Curtis is doing that, you've screwed up pretty badly. One other thing I want to say, I also really did like the chance that we got to see a little bit more of Oliver actually doing mayor stuff, and even pulling a few smart little political maneuvers. That was kind of cool. But anyway, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi, and please also join me on Tumblr at Jedi Review. See you next time. Take care and have a good one.